I have been written off at least thrice, where I was down and dead and nobody would answer my calls. I make those films for the repercussions. It was a very conscious decision to not call it one state. I was making a film about our perspective on Northeast India.
Today we're going to speak to filmmaker Anubhav Sinha. But this conversation over coffee is not just going to be about his films, but also about his life before he became a filmmaker. Hi Anubhav, so welcome to the Quint.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, before we speak about your films and delve more into the craft, I would love to know, as an engineering student in Delhi, did you ever think this is what your life would turn out to be, a successful filmmaker of that?
No, of course not. I mean, I studied in Aligarh actually, and I was working in Delhi.
Okay.
And not happy doing what I was doing, and I quit. And then took me about a year to figure out I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Right.
So, you know, forget success, one didn't know if one would become a filmmaker.
Yeah.
It was not in my family history. This, for me, this career for me was a career that others pursued.
Okay.
And it was the first in the family, and I'm so happy I got wherever I've gotten. You know, I come from an era which makes me sound very old, which also I am.
No, I don't
But
think you are.
those days, your careers were chosen by your parents.
Yeah.
And especially middle class, small town, Banaras. I don't think I had an ambition of my own about myself.
Right.
It was my father's ambition. It was just a societal thing that you were a good son if you became an engineer.
Right.
And so I did that. And then I started working, and then in a year I realized, no, if this is my life, I don't like it. One day, one fine morning, I just met my boss and I said, I'm quitting.
Yeah.
And he said, why? I said, because I don't like it. So obviously it was quite incredible. I went to my dad and I told him I want to be a filmmaker, and he, without blinking, said, okay, go ahead, do it. Which was quite incredible.
Yeah. Especially back in 1989, I don't think
Yeah.
such a thing was heard of.
No,
Even
no,
today,
no.
in fact, a lot of parents would say, what? Why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really amazing.
I tell people who have interesting careers, and I meet youngsters who want to become filmmakers, and they will come to me and for advice, and I tell them, don't do it.
Why is that?
You know, it's important for me to tell them don't do it. I want them to do it. They should know it's very difficult. It is so perilous that you should be aware that it's that perilous. And then, even then, if you want to jump, then you jump, and then you'll make it.
So is filmmaking and becoming a director, is that something you learned on the job, or did you eventually take another course and learn it?
I'm still learning on
Yeah.
the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. And this is one such job where you learn every day. And mostly what not to do.
Right. So what are the few things what not to do?
Don't give up. It's a cliche.
Yeah.
I have, in my whole career, I have been written off at least thrice, where I was down and dead and nobody would answer my calls. But I'm here, and I will be here.
So when you started off with your first film, Tumbin, those were the days when there were already a lot of filmmakers that came from affluent film families. And nowadays, a lot of people are fixated on the fact that nepotism exists in the industry. What was it back then? Was it like a struggle for you to get a foot into the industry back then?
These are two different questions actually, they're not related. But you know, so that part of the question is this, that yes, people from the families over generations have taken the mantle and, you know, made careers out of their legacies.
Yeah.
Sometimes successfully, sometimes not. Other part of the question is that, did I have a problem because some other son was becoming a director and I was also becoming a director, and he got an opportunity because he was a son of a director? No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay.
You don't get discriminated against like that. There's X number of opportunities. He wouldn't take my opportunity.
Right.
An opportunity will be created for him,
Yeah.
which was never going to come to me anyway.
So what I meant was, in terms of getting into the industry, because there was already so much happening, there were so many directors, and you didn't really come from a film family or have any backing from the film fraternity. So was it difficult for you to get a foot into the industry?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
It is as difficult for anybody. In fact, people like myself who would do menial jobs on set and all, they're hard to find. And so we would get those jobs very easily. And that point onwards, your success and your progress depended on your performance. I came here in the 90s, early 90s. And ever since the early 90s, the industry has been growing exponentially. And it is short of talent even today, every day.
So when you made your first film, Tumbin, it was an out-and-out entertainer, and then also you went on to make Cash, you made Ravan, etc. Were those the films that you really wanted to set out to make, or did you make the kind of cinema because that was what was being made back then?
In the beginning of my career, you were not sitting and choosing. It was not an a la carte choice.
Yeah.
You did what you got, and you aspired what was happening around you. So you aspired for those kind of things, and I was not raised to be an artist.
Right.
Who knew the conviction in a poem. I did not know that.
And I think that's what happened in 2018 when you started making films like Mulk, and then there was Article 15, Thappal, and very recently Anek. Films that speak about casteism, communal harmony and sexism, which are very politically and socially relevant, features that really speak to the current fabric of our country. So when you set out to make films like that, are you ever worried about the repercussions? Because unfortunately, we are in a country where a film that a sensibility does not match with the people, it can either be heavily censored or it can be banned. So are you ever worried about the repercussions that the films might bring?
I make those films for the repercussions. I want those films to have some social repercussions. If you're talking about the difficulties en route, no, I don't. I would cross the bridge when I get there. But the repercussions is the reward. No, that if I can have people talk about communal coexistence, if I can have a friend of mine at the premiere just walks past me and doesn't even say anything to me, and I thought he didn't like the film. So I grabbed his arm and I said, "What? You didn't like the film? What?" Thappad.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to face me because there was something going on, and he said, "No, I got to go and say sorry to someone," and he left.
Yeah.
That's the repercussion what I make films for.
You know, even personally, you're someone who does not shy away from talking to power. Like if there's an issue that's happening in the country, you're one of the few people from the industry who will take to social media and talk about it. But there's a large part of the industry that does not do it. Do you think that people who have the influence or are in the position of influence should probably take more stands in the industry?
To each his own.
Yeah.
Not everyone is an activist.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I used to be very angry about these things. But then I later realized that people are doing different things in their individual capacities, and some are not exhibited. For the film industry, especially the actors, are low-hanging fruit. And everybody jumps on them and pounces on them. I think the guy in the street is as responsible.
Sure.
And they are the ones who start a revolution. So if there's something wrong going on, it's never a movie star who started a revolution. You know, even actors are overrated in that respect.
Yeah.
They do not have enough influence to ensure a Friday every time.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's their business, right? That's what they do. That's what they're stars for.
But unfortunately, I guess because they are in the limelight, and then there's a stark difference when some people do stand up for things and some don't, so they're called out. It's also, I think, one of the drawbacks of being in the power, being in the position of influence. Would you agree?
Also, it's, unfortunately, the media in India has gone way below Rwanda radio, way below that. So for them, it's not about calling out the right things anymore.
Right.
It's about grabbing enough eyeballs for a headline, not even the entire article. So if an actor's name brings them X number of articles, eyeballs, they would write anything about it.
Speaking of actors, I interviewed Ayushmann just before the release of Anek, and we were talking about how Anek came into being, and he was telling me that you and him have a lot of conversations about the topics y'all should be talking about, etc. It's a very sensitive topic that you were trying to put out there. Considering that, were you anticipating such a polar reaction to the film?
No, honestly not. There was a very, very widespread positive response to the trailer.
Yes.
So, and then Anubhav and Ayushmann coming back together after Article 15, and the trailer seemed so attractive to people, and the film seemed like it had more material, more popular material, including action. So, no, one did not expect it to have such a polarized response.
A lot of people opined that when Anek released, it did not really talk about which state the action was taking place in. And the opinion was that when you kind of generalize it and not draw the history or the conflict of a particular state, you're painting it in a broader stroke. So what would you like to say about that?
There are 7, 8 states in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Of them, one is rather quiet and it doesn't have many problems. But the 7 sisters have problems, and they're very localized problems, they're very ethnic problems before they become political problems. And more often than not, they are very different from each other. It was a very conscious decision to not call it one state. There are their own ethnic political problems, geographical problems, but there's a larger problem of us, the mainland India, not treating them like India.
Yeah.
And that's what I was dealing with right now. I was not dealing with the problems of Manipur or Nagaland or Mizoram. I was dealing with the general problems of the Northeast, because there is no way I could have dealt with the politics of, let's say, Nagaland in one film. It's not possible. And most importantly, the larger point was that I was trying to make was that we look at them as one. As तुम तो Northeast से हो ना. So we don't differentiate between Assam and Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram and Tripura. That was the point I was trying to make. If a journalist from Nagaland or Mizoram has this problem from me, from the film, that why did you not make it about Nagaland, I fully get it.
We do have someone in the Quint who is from there, and he was the one who was actually discussing this, and because I had already watched it.
I am with him.
Yeah.
We should make a film on specific states.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, at this instance, I wasn't making a film about the specific local ethnic political problems of tribes and states. I was making a film about our perspective on Northeast India, which according to us is probably one state, and it is not.
So, there were a lot of people from the Northeast, like I said, there were a lot of pieces written, etc., who weren't perhaps very pleased with the way it was portrayed, like I said, again, just talking about the state and the larger issue. Is there something that you'd like to say to them on behalf of Anek and the film that you made?
They were not happy about what?
Again, about the state issues, like, you didn't say where the action was taking place, or everything was clubbed into one.
There was a reason why I chose to do it like this. So if you see, I have taken a lot of pain and effort to make it look like that. Every single shot in the film where you see a vehicle, the number plate says NE. So that tells you that the director was actually consciously doing something, and he was making an effort, and you know of that director from his earlier films and otherwise. He wasn't trying to cop out from something. He was making a point.
Before we go, what can we expect from you next?
I finished making a film called Bheed with Rajkumar and Bhumi and Pankaj Kapoor and a lot of other fantastic actors. So that should be out in November. So I am working on it, and I'm right now chilling a bit and trying to figure out what am I shooting next. So I know I need to go on a vacation, on another vacation.
Where is that going to be? Do you have something on mind?
Quite a few places.
Thank you so much for talking to us and
Thank
removing
you.
this time. Thank you so
Thank you
much
for
and
having
good luck
me.
for the next films.
Thank you so much.